Welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden.
All right, welcome. Come on, Kim Hayden here, and if this is your first time visiting and stopping by, I want to thank you from the very bottom of my heart. I know that your time is super valuable. I promise, there's always something fun and informative coming out of the podcast because I only have the best that come onto the podcast. So today's guest is a gal after my own heart. We already have so much to talk about, both being in podcasting and ADHD. I love this. And we're gonna dive into building business and getting your brand out and leveraging podcasting and why it's important. Jessica Dornieden is the co-founder of Pristine Podcast, a podcast production and marketing agency with expertise in marketing, business, and podcasting. She achieved notable success in her career from starting a virtual assistant to becoming the CMO of a multi-seven-figure coaching company. Jessica's personal struggle with ADHD and traditional work environments has inspired her to create a life and business that works for her. She is passionate about helping others to do the same. This is a gal after my own heart. Come on in. So, Jessica, my favorite thing to do is to read people's bios. I love it. If I could just do that for a living, that is my calling. Mother of three, and my favorite thing to do with my kids and it wasn't about they were going to go to sleep, but it was the bedtime stories. I love doing Berenstain Bears, and so I love. How are you doing today?
Yes, I'm good today. How about you?
You're good.
I'm liking it. I'm like in the 4 p.m. afternoon, like Zen zone. I'm not sure if that ever like hits you. So I'm like just floating along here. So.
Awesome. No, I'm more of that when you see toddlers and they run until they literally fall over asleep. That's me. There's no in between Zen mode for me. I'm like either 100% or where's Kim? Oh, I think she's sleeping.
Yeah, that'll hit me again, probably, usually at the most inconvenient time, other people winding down at 8 p.m. and suddenly I start getting the second burst of energy and then I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep going. Like, I'm not tired at all. And then the next thing that happens is my head hits the pillow and I'm like, that's it for the day. So, yeah.
Exactly. Oh, I have so many questions for you. So many. I'm excited to learn. Before we dive into questions of what you do, how you do it, and why you do it, tell a little bit more about who is Jessica.
Yeah, hi, me.
Hi.
Special unicorn brain. That's the story of my life. So, I guess what really motivated me to get going and to make things happen is mostly that I've always been super curious, super chatty, super interested, and I've always wanted to make the most of it. And I've just never really felt like I could do that when I was working. And yeah, it was usual so many people that would be like, hey, no, you can't say that, you can't do that, you can't do that this way. We do things like this because we've always done it that way. So I guess I'm a little bit of a stubborn person. And yeah, and that kind of brought me towards not listening so much to other people and starting to do my own thing. And yeah, initially I had no clue what the thing looks like, but it made it happen one way or another. And I guess it's the beauty of the special unicorn brain that you never really quite know where the next idea will take you. And that's sort of me. I'm just like, hey, I want to know, I want to try, I want to see what happens and then take it from there. So yeah, me behind
Okay, I
the
have to
scenes.
ask, are you a millennial by chance? Are you in that range?
I think I am. I'm not
Because
really I'm not
I
into these kind of label
well, I have to tell you,
whatever.
the 30 somethings, I love the fact that
Yeah.
the 30 somethings literally shifted the way we look at employment. I love that because we always joke that I've been completely unemployable my entire life.
Yeah. I think I would be
I've
now as
tried at a
well.
couple jobs, but now it's okay because we employ ourselves. We bet on ourselves, right? Whereas my generation, so I'm 54, you had a job. You had a job, and if you didn't have a job, you weren't really, unless they could see a storefront or something. It was
Yeah, yeah.
really a struggle. And I love the fact that our 30 somethings, our millennials, everybody always mocks them, but the reality is they came in and said your side hustle can be your dream hustle. You can create your own career. And I love that about the younger generation, and then just gets compounded with COVID and the way the world has shifted technologically. That brings me into, I really want to dive into what you do, because I am 100% behind. So everybody knows I am 110% behind everything Jessica's about to share, because I believe the power of voice and story. Story is currency. AI
Yeah.
will take over a lot of the mundane, sequential jobs and all of that. Cannot, cannot replace the human voice. So,
Yeah.
Jessica, I'm turning this 100. Walk me through what you do, and let's pick it apart and share with people what they're missing
Yeah,
out.
sure.
Awesome.
Sure. So I'll go back a bit on the note of millennials, and I'll then tie it into what I do. So basically, the reality was that if you think about it, for a lot of people, they end up being in a job and a position that absolutely doesn't do them any favors. So I was working in daycare. I've always had this connection with children, and that was like, something that I could see myself doing. But realistically, I had sort of reached the top position running a daycare center in London. And after I'd paid all of my taxes, I would have like £2,000 a month. I'm not sure, maybe just under 3K dollars in my bank account. And I was like, I can't pay my bills with that. I can never go traveling. I can never do anything that I want to do. I can't save any money. I can't buy a house. I'm like, what is this? So I ended up looking for an alternative, and it was one of those weird moments where I accidentally clicked on a Facebook ad. And I came to someone's online business community, and I was like, online business? Like, what the heck is that? And how can I get into it? That sounds great. So I joined that. It was like one of those little memberships, maybe $30 a month or something like that, cheap investment. So I went in there because I always thought, hey, if you surround yourself with people who already do something that you might want to try, you'll, have connections, you will learn faster. So I went in there, and then I had still no idea what I wanted to do. So every time somebody posted a question in the Facebook group, I ended up helping them with their tech. So somebody would be like, hey, my Calendly won't do this. Hey, my WordPress is playing up. And then after like a month of me fixing everyone's tech problems and being like, oh, I've heard of that before. You go here, you do that. The coach of the group was like, hey, did you know you could get paid to do that? So I was like, what? Like, somebody will pay me to do that? And that's actually how I got started. It was sort of an accident because I just kept helping people with something that I knew how to do. And then people were paying me for that. And then within 3 months, I quit my full time job because the income was enough to cover the bills. And then I kind of had to get help on board because I got more clients and I couldn't, manage all of the things that needed doing. And suddenly I had like 4 team members, and what by now for most people would be a pretty decent-ish business. And then I started developing more in the direction of marketing because I got really interested into why are people doing what they're doing and what is behind that. Like, I really wanted to understand what motivates people to take certain actions. Why do they buy this but they don't buy that? Um, and I started building funnels, and I kind of went into the email automation direction and working out what to send to whom at what point in time. Why would that work or why not? And then more and more of our clients actually started requesting help with their podcasts, because podcasting since 2013 has been growing pretty much year on year. And our clients were like, please, can you help? I want to start a podcast. Can you help me edit? And can you help me figure out what to talk about? And so, yeah, as I kind of came into podcasting from the marketing direction. And then I got my boyfriend on board, who already knew how to edit, mostly video for clients. And he then started training up in audio. And that's how we ended up working on Pristine Podcasts together. So it's not always easy, particularly working with your partner. Um, but we have like the perfect opposite skills, where I look at people and content and why does this work? And he looks at all the, all the audio side and things like that. So yeah. And that's what we do now.
So let's talk partner. Okay. I'm front of house. So we're going to break this down. I figured that, okay, so podcasting, absolutely. I want to put this out there very clearly. Podcasting is the audio opportunity, and podcasting is actually audio and video. But if you're sending out an e-newsletter and you're not putting your voice in your audience ear, you are going to lose market share. Period. Point blank. People are deleting those newsletters. They are unsubscribing. However, if you can couple that, if you can give people an option to hear you, read you, or see you, and you meet them where they want to engage, you have a much higher likelihood. So I 110% agree with everything you're saying. I want to pick this apart because I think a key component here is the fact that you've been able to execute. And I find that with building a business, it's either you have your time, either you don't have the time or you do have the time. You have the technology or you don't understand technology, and you have the talent or you don't have the talent. You're in that space. You talk about bringing on your partner as your partner, and I've done that. I worked 17 years with my husband. It's amazing. We made it.
That is an awesome long time to make it through for.
Don't tell anybody, it was painful at times. But how do you find a good partner? How do you know you need a partner? A lot of women in business, so let's talk business. A lot of women in business are bootstrapping, so they're underfunded, they're overworked, and they're trying to do things that they're not they do not have an aptitude for. They're trying to do everything. How do you find a partner? When do you know at what point you need to team up or to bring on a strategic partner so you can execute?
Yeah, so for me, I think the main thought process has always been like I've been aware of the things that I'm not good at, because to be honest, all of my life someone's told me that I'm not good at something, could be doing so much better if she just applied herself more, I'm pretty much sure.
Did they say that to you? Was that your
high?
Oh my God, that's the priest that delivered my report card every semester in the Catholic school I went to. Kimberly Joe, you would do so much better if you only applied yourself. They said that to you? Oh, Jessica, honey, I am
all of
so
that,
sorry.
literally. I swear all of our school reports, they just copy and paste and they all say the same things. Other than that, it said I should stop talking so much and distracting my classmates next to me. So that was like the second complaint to be getting. But I just realized that there is things that I'm not good at, and that's okay. I was like, hey, you know what? I have great ideas and I can be really creative and I have a lot of motivation and energy, but I don't have that energy consistently all day, every day. And I've been all my life trying to force myself to get better at being consistent and doing something for 20 minutes every single day at exactly the same time. And it turns out I'm not very good at it, but I can spend 12 hours in one go on the same thing without eating or going to the toilet. And while that's not necessarily also very good, but that's how I get stuff done. And that's okay. And that works for me. But I realized very early on that if something requires daily action of the same kind at the same time with the same energetic input, I am going to have to get help. And I I pretty early on priced everything that I was doing to factor in the help. So I kind of had a plan that whenever I set prices, I was like, okay, well, we're going to need some for profit. We're going to need some to pay the people that do work that's not to do with delivery of the thing that I just sold. And then we're going to have to cover the help that I'm going to need because I won't be able to consistently do it all. So sometimes I've brought on people because I didn't have the skill that was at the core of delivering that service, which in this case is audio editing. And I could not imagine myself sitting there for hours every single day paying intricate attention to detail. It is not me. But it doesn't have to be you that always does something. If there is parts of the thing that you can just get somebody on that does that way faster, way better, and loves it way more than you do, then make sure that whatever you're working out as far as pricing goes factors in that you're going to share that with somebody else, and then you do the things that you are good at. And I know it's kind of you take a hit in the income initially, but to be honest, because you're only working on things that give you more energy, you can be more present, you can be more consistent, you have more fun, and you will get more stuff done. And because it's two experts, you will consistently get results for clients. So it might look bad on the front end because you're like, hey, I will lose X% of what I'm earning, but you will earn infinitely more because you're not burning yourself out in the process.
And that's, I think, really important. I think we have to remember, I'd rather have 50% of $20 than 0% of $20, right? And I think that, I mean, nobody truly gets that next great thing on their own. You got your time, talent, and your tech. And I have yet to meet anyone that has all three. All three.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love the fact that you've identified this. First of all, for anybody out there who got a report card that said, if you'd only have yourself, you're not alone. You're not alone. And the fibbing and the exaggeration. I don't know if you went through that. My that was that was a big one.
Creative storytelling.
Yes,
but it was a
yes.
great practice for when you now think about it. Like we use storytelling all the time, and I feel like talking too much for a very long time also helps with telling stories further down the line, and just finding like the key point of it and just telling that part of the story and leaving all the boring in between parts out of it. So in a way, I don't mind so much because I feel like I got some practice for some skills that I'm actually using now. And it turns out, although the teachers always said Jessica talks too much and needs to stop distracting her classmates, now I just picked something to do that doesn't require me to sit in silence all day, and I don't have any classmates to distract. So fine, like I'm okay with it. Yeah, I don't mind.
Isn't that awesome? And podcasting is such a great way to learn.
Yeah.
It is,
learn.
to learn and grow in your industry, to learn and grow as a human being. Podcasting is such because story is currency. It is currency. It is, we go back, it's one of the oldest forms of people traveling, the traveling bards, prophets, all of it. Storytelling is currency. Let's talk about the technology. So let's go into the nitty gritty a little bit about podcasting. What should people worry about, and what do people worry about that they shouldn't?
That's a really good question. I like that one. Okay, so the majority of our clients keep saying the sentence that makes me really fumingly mad, and that is, I've been thinking about doing a podcast for about 2 years, and I'm only just now getting round to it. So whatever you're worrying about right now that you're worrying about for 2 years, I can tell you're wasting your time, because there isn't anything about a podcast that's worth worrying about it and putting this off and shelving an opportunity like that for 2 years. So I find that the one question that really helps me to find a starting point with a new client is, how big is your audience? Because if you have a relatively small email list, I mean, maybe 1,000 people or so, relatively small social media following, um, you don't need to worry about anything. You just need to sit down and you need to get it done. There's this gap of knowledge where people have somebody that they follow, that they consider their mentor or someone that they aspire to be like. And that person has been doing the same thing for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. They have a team of 20 people. And then you are there by yourself and you look at that big person up there and you're like, well, they're launching like this, they're doing this, they're having all these emails, they have these fancy design things, they have all sorts of amazing stuff going on. And I don't, therefore, I can't do it yet. I have to learn more. I have to study more. I have to figure out how to do it like them. But the thing is, when you don't have an audience, there is very few people that you can tell about your podcast because you just haven't got the same reach that somebody has with an email list of 100,000 people. And actually, all the things that you end up worrying about, they don't really matter. What matters is that you actually start the process of just putting content out there. And yes, the name might not be the perfect name right now, but what you have to understand is that you're going to grow and develop as a business owner anyways. And what you do now might not even be what you're going to be doing exactly in 2 years. So there's always a chance that you're going to have to change your name anyways, that you're going to have to develop something anyways. So I keep saying to people, like, we're not trying to get married. We're just trying to do a podcast. That's all we're trying to do. We're just going to, go through the motions of all the things that you need to have in place to start the podcast, and stop overthinking everything. Like literally, people overthink the name, what to put in the description, what exactly would I be talking about, what is the perfect script for an episode, like the perfect structure to have, what is the perfect cover art, what is the perfect this. There isn't any perfect anything, and doing anything is better than
Yep.
doing nothing for 2 years. It's not
Well,
worth it.
and it evolves. It
Yes.
evolves and it shifts. Whatever you're doing today, hitting on all cylinders, and the market will shift. The
Yeah.
human condition and consumption will shift, and then it won't fit. So if you get overly emotionally involved and engaged in a set, it's like, has to be this way. You're going to get
It
left
doesn't
behind
work.
when trends change.
Yeah.
Speaking of trends, so let's talk structures of podcast. When people
Mhm.
talk podcasting, they believe that what we're doing right now is the only way you do a podcast, and they go, oh my god, it's so complex, I have to bring everything. Let's talk the different structures of podcast, from
Mm.
monologue style to
Yep, yep, yep.
investigative style. So there's a multitude of ways that you can do this. It's more about getting your voice in their ear. It's more about creating that intimacy of connection. So, what are the different ways that people could actually simply launch a podcast?
Yeah, really
Or what
simple.
different?
Record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
record some audio, like test it out. I always like to test it out with the people that you already have in your environment and do it behind the scenes, so you're not publicly going out there committing to anything right now. You're just doing a test run. So you could just include some audio in your regular newsletter that you send out to people anyways. And you could be like, hey, by the way, like, I recorded my thoughts on this topic. If you want to hear me talk about this rather than, read this thing that I've written, go play this and then get some feedback from people. So with that, you'll get into practice just to sit in front of a mic, to hit record, to share some of your thoughts, and then you send it out to people that like you anyways, and that are most likely to provide you with some feedback on what they thought about that. And you'd be surprised at the number of people that respond, oh my God, that was so great. I wish you had a podcast that I could listen to every single week. Because you don't always have to go full out. You can just test the waters a little bit when you get started. And then if you work out that it's for you, there are so many different ways in which you can do a a podcast of sorts. Like, I just helped somebody launch 2 weekends ago. She was very concerned because she goes traveling a lot. So she has time periods where she's not available. She's been, in total burnout before, and she didn't want this pressure on herself to have to record an episode every single week. So I was like, okay, then you have the option to structure your podcast differently. So you put together a season of, I don't know, 6, 8, 12 episodes, whatever feels comfortable for you. They're always in a certain direction. They lead towards your offers that you're trying to get people into. And then you always take a fixed amount of break. And, you can structure it in a way where you produce things in bulk, you script in bulk, you record in bulk. You don't need to be stressed out and burnt out through producing content. And as far as the episodes themselves go, you can have so much fun with it. Like, so the simple things to do is, I always ask people, what is the aim of the podcast? Are you trying to connect with people? Are you trying to foster conversations? Is that what you're trying to do? Or you're trying to share your knowledge in your industry and, make connections with, your audience and lead them towards accessing some of your services. So if you're going to want to go for the whole, right, I need to position myself here, I need to share my knowledge, I need to help people to understand the work that I do, I need to bring on people for testimonials so that, people hear how great my stuff is, I say go the solo option for a while. Of course, you can have a guest on now and again where it fits, but if you're really wanting to help people to understand the work that you do and the transformation that you achieve, then have mostly solo episodes. But even with those, you can have so much fun. Like, you can include different silly segments. You can get, audio recordings out of your email newsletter, for example, send them to a link, get them to record something funny for you. You can get people to leave reviews on your podcast and then, make them some funny twist with it. Like, tell us what you think only in this way, and then you can read those out. You can have special segments where you always share certain things that you're passionate about, and they don't have to have anything to do with your professional topic. It could be something like, I don't know, your favorite snack of the month or something like that. Like, you could just have like a silly segment that you include regularly. And then you can work a little bit with music to sort of transition it out. You can do a lot of fun things, and there isn't, maybe that's like a school leftover, right? There's a right way and a wrong way that you can do things. But the thing is, with the podcast, there isn't a right and a wrong way. There's what works for you and your people and what doesn't work for you and your people. And that is the way you can run it, And the same if you're doing interviews every week, then do interviews, but why not make them fun? Why not always have like a certain type of question that has nothing to do with what you talk about, that you always ask people about? It's really open to creativity in that sense, and that's what I like about it. And you don't have to do it like that all the time. You can do it like that for 2 months, and then you can change your mind because you don't find it fun anymore. So then change it up.
Podcast, my understanding, is more about the connectivity, the human connectivity. People find somebody to connect with and they identify, and they'll listen to maybe pretty much anything they put out. Or,
Yep.
and that's, and we have to remember everybody goes, well, everybody has a podcast. The truth is, not everybody has a podcast. There's only a couple million podcasts out there. And statistically, 90% of those podcasts will stop, shift, or whatever after 7 episodes. So it's a constant trial and error to figure out. But I mean, that's what business is, what life is. I mean, I don't know. Think about how you grew up. I mean, I look at my kids were all in a constant shift. It's like, oh, mom. But the reality is people are looking for the human connection, and nothing is more intimate than a voice in your ear.
Yep.
If you are
And it
putting,
is,
sorry,
I'll add to that. It's something that I hear a lot where it's like, oh yeah, but I want to do YouTube videos by default. And I don't want to just do audio or whatever. Doesn't say that you can't do a podcast with video, but the original idea is, we'll do audio as its main format. But the thing is, when people watch videos, they're quite distracted sometimes. Like, they're on YouTube, there's a million things to click on, whatever else kind of held their attention last time. And you find that people don't get that level of connection that they have when they're just listening to audio, because you need to put pop-ups there and zoom in and zoom out and keep doing things to hold people's attention. And if you're not doing that, well, then you will see on YouTube that your watch time is actually relatively low. And then if you take the same content and you go into Apple Podcasts and you look at the completion rate of a podcast episode, you'll find that, people are listening to, on average, like 85% of my episodes. I don't know any of our clients I've had over the last 7 years that have gotten an average 85% completion rate on their YouTube videos. And their YouTube videos are only 7 minutes long, not 45 minutes. So you have a completely different interaction with the person that's listening to your content. And that is what's so great, because they take you everywhere,
Well, YouTube is more, I think, this is just my personal belief, but I believe YouTube is more about, especially now that they put podcast channel into YouTube, I think it's more about searchability, and your shorts are critical. Your shorts are critical, and your YouTube shorts need to link back to your podcasting platform. Because I absolutely agree that because I don't. We're having wildfires in Alberta, so today the skies are all orange. So I'm just waiting to see if like something, because it's like burning all around us. So yeah,
No.
it's pretty orange. Okay, I'm back. So I don't do a lot of editing. I run these very raw. These are very real on YouTube. I have everything already set up in sequence so we can move quite quickly, because I move quickly. So I'm looking for people who engage like I do, right? I can't convert the engineers who everything engineers look at me, they run for the hills. They go, oh my God, she's scary.
That's me.
So
I'm just like, hey, I recorded an extra episode yesterday. Like, do you mind to get it ready like today? And they're like, what? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I changed my mind and I got really excited to talk about that. And I think that's so much more interesting and I want to put it out like tomorrow. Do you mind? And
exactly.
I'm always like, oh no.
Yeah, I did real estate for frontline for over 14 years, top 1% real estate agent. All of my business came from doing events and open houses. Can you go figure? They weren't from consistent newsletters. They weren't from, lead gens and funnels, because that's not my strength. My strength is get me in an open house and get me a live human being, and we got a new friend, right? And needless to say, this is how I do. So just so you know, you can also pre-frame things, folks. This is how I would go into a new listing opportunity. I'd walk up. Oh, I'm super excited. I left because I only worked as a listing specialist in a set area. So I knew those neighborhoods. I knew those blocks. I knew who planted a new shrub and who had a new fence. And I'd go up and I said, I love the fact that you painted your door red. I'm super excited for the opportunity to work with you. By the way, I talk really fast. I'm big. If at any point in time I'm going into too much detail, not enough detail, talking too fast, need to move forward, I'm okay for you to say, Kim, we're good. Kim, move forward. So I gave everybody permission, basically, to tell me how they're consuming me. And it was hilarious, because as soon as I put this in place, the engineers were going, okay, maybe I can work with this one, but she's cray. So, they all looked at me, but I got the houses sold. So let's move into, I really would like to talk about a story of resilience. Without that moment of resilience, and we all have to pull at some point in time, be it business or personal, without that moment of resilience, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, I think resilience is like the key factor, because when you're starting something like this, there isn't a manual. I know everyone's always looking for the manual, but there isn't one, sorry. And there isn't a magic anything or just one more thing. There isn't one more thing. So I had quite a few moments over the last few years where I could have very easily said, you know what, screw this. Like I'm just gonna pack it in. So in the middle of growing all of this, I got pregnant with my now ex, and needless to say, that didn't really go very well. And yeah, we ended up separating. I couldn't take the baby abroad with me, so it turned into this whole, it turned into this whole fucking thing. And then I thought, okay, right, we've separated. I'm kind of grieving the loss of the family that I had while I'm still working for my clients, having an utter meltdown. So I kind of spent days, just overthinking, ADHD special, go down the spiral of everything that you've ever done that means that you are an absolute piece of junk, basically. So I did a few weeks of doing that. In the process of that, of course, I wasn't very well at responding to my messages, my emails, taking care of my work or whatever. And I ended up just quitting the majority of people. I was just like, hey, I'm like down in the dumps. This is what happened. I can't deal with it anymore. I can't get your endless emails. I can't deal with any of it. And then eventually that sort of picked up again. I picked myself out. And then a few months later, my dad passed away. So I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I just spent 8 months going back and forth and trying to like pick myself up. And I feel like, okay, like I have a new place to live. Everything is like sorted. My work is sorted again. I'm just getting back on track. And then literally my phone rings. It's my mom. My mom never calls me. My mom only calls me when something bad has happened, basically. So I was like, oh no, what's it now? Pick up the phone. Yep. That's what happened. Pack it all up again, go back home. And again, I am back at the why weren't you there? All of those useful thoughts that you might have along the way. And then just after I kind of came back out of that, the whole COVID thingy started. So I was I was like, okay, just shelve these 3-4 years as like absolutely not the best time. But in all this time, I guess I learned that I can rely on myself. And I feel like that is one of the biggest skills that you can have. Like, a lot of times we're looking to other people. We're like, "Oh, I wish somebody could come and help me, and somebody could come and rescue me, and somebody could just tell me what to do and whatever." And I guess in that time, I just realized that, okay, this shit's happened. I don't really have any control over it, to be honest. There's nothing that I can do to fix it. This is what it is. And I need to find a way to deal with that and to move forward. And in that whole time, I didn't really give the responsibility away to say, oh, yeah, well, no one's coming to do this for me, or I'm having to fight through. And now I know that no matter what happens, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with AI. I don't know what's going to happen with anyone's jobs. Like, I don't know. But I know that at the end of the day, I can rely on myself to figure it out. And I trust myself. And I feel like that's been the biggest takeaway from all of this time because, yeah, no, I can do it. I'll figure it out, whatever it is, like find a way forward. And that's to me the biggest skill that anyone can have is that trust in yourself and that not giving up and not waiting for anyone from the outside to come and do anything for you because they're not coming. So, yeah,
No, yeah, exactly. Nobody save you. You got to bet on
no.
yourself. I totally agree with you. And you know what? I'm glad you pushed through because your website is totally awesome. Before we get to your socials and everything that you're doing, I'd like to have you share with us a book or a podcast that's feeding your soul.
hmm The book that I read most recently that kind of shifted a whole load of perspective for me is called The Motive. Why so many leaders abdicate their most important responsibilities. I've forgotten who wrote it, so I would point blank need to look that up for a second. But it was a really, and it's very short. It's a very short read, and you can really get that in pretty quickly. Patrick Lencioni is the author. Um, but it really opened my eyes to what are the actual responsibilities of a leader. That's something that I've been, thinking about for a long time. Like, we've got a small team of like 5 people, and, you become leaders for the people that, follow your content and for your clients. And it was a really good takeaway, what it means to be in charge of a company and what your actual responsibility is, and that if you're avoiding that responsibility because I don't like meetings or I don't like uncomfortable conversations, then you are not really doing your job. And that was something that I found super interesting as far as the book goes, because I think
Awesome.
becoming better leaders is super important.
And that is always a work in progress. If
Yes.
you're growing, so are all your skill sets. Let's go down social. So I've got your website here. Do check out the website, folks. pristinepodcast.com.
Yep.
And then your Pristine Podcast. And then
Yep.
your LinkedIn is underneath Jessica Dornieden. Now, did
Yep.
I say that right? Is it an E or a? Did I say it right?
Yeah,
Dornieden?
it's Dornieden, actually. Even in
Dornieden.
Germany, that is a very uncommon surname. So if you Google me with that name, you'll pretty much find me anywhere.
Oh, I had the N in the wrong spot in my pronunciation. So she was so nice too about it. Dornieden. That's awesome. That's awesome. So do connect with her about your website, where you're at, because you've got a couple new things that I noticed are coming soon, and these are kind of cool things that are coming up. And then
Yeah.
anything you want to share?
Yeah, totally. So we've been kind of supporting our clients with the management, editing, and production. So anyone that's in a place where you're running a business and you don't want to be doing all the stuff yourself anymore, and you don't want to keep, like, I find what usually happens, everyone's got like one VA to do this and someone else to do that part, and then an editor to do this, but they're still kind of the person that's responsible for everything, and it's driving them crazy. So basically, if you want to not give tasks away, but you want to give the responsibility for this thing away and know that it's going to get done, then you know that you're in a place where you can get help with kind of podcast management. And then we are working on expanding our sponsorship funding offered. So we're currently doing that for our management clients, but I want to open it up to more people because I want small business podcasters to get paid, and not with nonsense ads for, I don't know, garden hoses being automatically played on your business podcast, but by helping other small business owners to place ads on small business podcasts, because you might only have 200 downloads per episode, but hey, that can be the precise 200 people that someone else
Yeah.
needs. Like, I don't understand what is it about this
If
obsession with download numbers.
if you're going into this to be the next Joe Rogan, then don't do it.
Don't
do it. I will tell you, I told every single real estate, and I work hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. I am a 7-figure earner in real estate. And I would tell my clients, they're going, oh, we need to have, X amount of showings. And I'm like, why? You only need one person to buy your house, right?
Yep.
Only one person. So the reality is, if 200 people is all you need to make your business float for an entire year, then why are you worried about having 1 million downloads?
No, it's the same as, being obsessed with followers on Instagram and subscribers on YouTube. I've never seen anyone whose bank balance was rising in line with the number of followers on social media, because you can bring on new people at any point, but that doesn't mean that those are the people for you. And the same thing goes with the sponsorships. I don't think that it's right that, maybe for big, huge brands who want to reach a gazillion people, whatever, do it that way. But if I want to advertise my $9 offer to someone, I am not going to send that out to 10,000 random people. I'd rather send that to 200 people who are my exact target customer, and that would be worth it to me if that's my $9 membership that I'm trying to get in front of people, because it's a no-brainer offer. These are my precise people, and I could get a large percentage of them to give me recurring revenue. So yeah, I want to expand on that a little bit. And then we recently did our first podcast in a weekend, which was fun. So that was for the people who are usually the master procrastinators. And It's a little bit mean because I sit everyone down for 2 days, like 2 6-hour sessions on the weekend, and I put everything on a timer. I'm like, right, you're going to go and you're going to map out your customer journey right now. You've got 35 minutes, bam. And then we put the timer on the screen and we all sit down and knock it out together. And by the end of the weekend, we have new podcasts. So it literally doesn't have to take 2 years to start a podcast. Hint, hint, you can do it in a weekend. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my neurodiverse friendly anti-procrastination offer of getting your podcast out there. We just sit down and just knock it out, hyper focus on it, and then be done.
And if we go to pristinepodcast.com, do you have any freebies, anything fun that, do you have anything like, should I have a podcast? How do I do that? Anything like that? What's out there?
Yeah, I've got a checklist out there for starting your podcast that you can just download. And if you already have a podcast, but you're looking at growing it and you're wondering why is it not really working for you, which is a huge problem, by the way. So don't worry if you feel like you're on the hamster wheel of making a new episode every single week and it's not doing anything for leads or sales. It is fixable, but you have to find the issue. So we actually have like a marketing and business scorecard, like a little audit thing you can fill out. And that's on the website as well. It's literally linked up on every page in every post. So you kind of can't get around that.
Can't get past it. That's awesome. That's consistency. That's persistence, folks. So let's talk. What is your quote? What's your quote, mantra, live by, and why?
So I live by say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean. And that's really important to me because I've spent a lot of time in my life not saying what I'm really thinking because I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. And then what happens to me when I do say something, I will say it mean because I've held that in for so long that now I can't say it nicely anymore. So I found that just reminding myself that it's actually better to say something, say it early, say it exactly how you mean it, and say it in a way that the other person doesn't feel like they've just been hit by a truck or something. And that will all get us a long way. And I think if people did more of that, then we wouldn't have to be so mean to each other all the time.
And if you apply the just kidding thing with it, then the reality is you knew it was mean. And if you are JK and everything, rethink how you're connecting. And maybe until you work on that, podcasts, there are people who will listen to that too. So trust me, folks, there are billions of people on this planet. The planet is in the most progressive and evolving space it's ever been. And there are people looking for you to be their voice. There are people who are looking for you to be their friend and be their connection, to be their insight or their experience. So why not? Why not have a podcast? Reach out to Jessica. You know what? I can't thank you enough for sharing your time again this week with me. Do stick around. Watch my super closing. I'm so proud of these. I love music. And just so you know,
it's so fun.
It took 102 episodes. 102 episodes, folks, to come up with this copy and this opening. I got to start somewhere. So reach out to Jessica, get started. And until next time, you know what? Like Jessica said, nobody's coming to save you. So bet on your baby, bet on yourself. You got this. You got this. I promise you. So go sit back, enjoy the closing music. Until next time.
Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching, and you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that sharing